Some other regulars are active. They don't know. So it is 105 and 18 students are there to start with. Let's see whether this number goes up. Let me start sharing the screen. Yeah, we have been examining the last and the sixth unit in corporate valuation. I mean the theoretical part of this subject. The last unit being the value-based management, how the objective of the maximization of shareholders' wealth or shareholder value is the central focal point of all organizations, and how different approaches are available for the organizations to pursue their objective of shareholder value maximization or shareholder wealth maximization. And we have noted that there are five different approaches that have been included in your curriculum. There are certain commonalities or similarities between these approaches which we have noted, but there are certain differences between these approaches that also we have noted. And later we have taken up the discussion of these individual approaches one by one, these five approaches. And we had completed this marathon approach, a very extensive approach, but the summary of this approach is captured in this slide. You can see there are four important steps in this approach. This approach suggests that the organization should take these steps in order to realize or achieve their objective of shareholder value maximization. In turn, the value of the corporate or the enterprise. They are first it is required to identify and specify the financial determinants of the value. What determines which are the factors that determine, right, that influence the value creation in an organization. Second is to identify and understand the value drivers, which are the factors that drive, that contribute to, that push the value, that help in adding value, right? Creating more and more value to the shareholders. Third one is having understood these two, that is, the factors influencing the value creation and the factors pushing or driving the value creation or value addition. The managements are required to formulate extremely good strategies or those strategies and policies which are likely to help the organization in enhancing the value creation, in adding more value. And not only this, they are required to ensure that the organization possesses superior organizational capabilities in terms of manpower, in terms of expertise, in terms of technology, in terms of physical resources, in terms of intellectual resources. You should have capabilities, right? You might be having very good strategies. You might have identified all those things, but if you don't have the required capacity, required capability, you will not be able to realize your dreams, realize your vision. So it is equally important as per this approach for the organizations to develop within the organizations superior, excellent, world class, or whatever you call state of the art technologies, facilities, infrastructure, right? Trained and skilled manpower, etc. etc. Then it is possible for the organizations to pursue their value creation objective and to realize their value creation objective. That is what this approach developed by an international consulting firm called Marathon Associates has suggested. Now the number is 21 who have joined. Shantaram, then Pranav, then Vidyashri, Pooja. Yeah, these four have joined now, taking the number to 22. Let's see. Okay. Now the next approach is Alcar approach. All these approaches are named after the management consultancy which has researched, right, and developed and proposed these approaches. So this Alcar Group Incorporated, INC stands for Incorporated. Just like we use limited or LTD in India for public limited companies, in US, all public limited companies are abbreviated in their name as Inc. It is pronounced as Inc. Please note this. INC means Incorporated. So that means it is a company registered under the Companies Act of that country. So Alcar Group Incorporated is a management, education, and software development and consultancy company, and it has developed a value-based management approach, which is based on the discounted cash flow analysis. So it has not developed any new basis for the value creation. It has dependent on the well-established discounted cash flow analysis, and it is trying to show, this approach is trying to show how by making use of this DCF analysis, DCF tool, firms can try to enhance value for their shareholders. They can create value, they can add value based on this DCF approach. That is what is the intent of this approach. Now, according to Alfred Rappaport, the principal architect of Alcar approach, Alfred Rappaport is the principal consultant, the chief of this consultancy firm, and he has the one who has spearheaded this approach, who has developed this approach. There are 7 factors called value drivers which affect shareholders' value. So in the previous approach we saw there are certain determinants of the value, right? In fact, the diagram that follows the marathon approach as given in your study material or course material should be clear. That's why hence I have not listed, because there is a diagram. Here it has been listed. These are the determinants of shareholder value. These are the factors that determine, right? That determine the value, shareholder value in an organization. What are these? Rate of sales growth, the rate at which your sales, right, in terms of quantity, in terms of revenue, in terms of physical and monetary or financial terms, it is increasing. Whether it is increasing by 5% over the previous year or 10% on a year-on-year growth, what is the rate at which your sales are growing? Because sales are the sources of revenue, and revenue is the source of income and profits and dividend for the shareholders, and the capital gains for the shareholders. So this is a very important determinant of the value. So this determines to a large extent what is the value you are going to create for your shareholders. If your sales are growing exponentially, if your sales are growing rapidly, if your sales are growing at a faster rate, at a rate above your industry average, right, then probably you are on the path of creating value for your shareholders. So please note, as per this approach, the rate of sales growth, the rate at which the organizations or firms' sales are growing in physical and financial terms, is a very important determinant of the shareholder value. Second one is operating profit margin. Operating profit is operating income minus operating expenses. It means not considering distribution and administrative, sales, distribution and administrative expenses. Only those incomes which come from selling your products, that is operating income. Those expenses which are incurred in making your products ready for sale, that is operating expenses. Got this? Operating income and operating expenses. A company might get interest on its investment. It is not an operating income. Please note, unless it is a bank or a financial institution, it is not an operating income for a manufacturing industry. For manufacturing industry, operations means the production and sales is the main operations. What does it get? What revenue it gets from this core operation is called the operating income. Now, this operating income minus operating expenses is your operating profit. What is the margin? What is the margin? For example, from your production and sale of 1 unit, if you are selling it at say 100 rupees, that is your operating income from the sale of one unit of your product. Then to produce this 1 unit, if you are incurring say 90 rupees, So your operating expense to produce that 1 unit is 90 rupees. Operating income 100 rupees. Operating expenditure 90 rupees. So your operating margin is 10 rupees. Operating margin is the difference between operating income and operating expenses. Without taking into account, please note, without taking into account administrative, selling, and distribution expenses, tax payments, etc. So, for any organization, this is the margin which helps it to meet its other non-operating expenses and have some surplus to be paid to shareholders as profits and dividends. Unless this margin is large, either by improving your revenue or by reducing your operating expenditure, unless you expand, unless you have a large operating margin, say 10%, 20%, 30%, you will not be able to meet other non-operating expenses like administrative, selling, and distribution expenses, and you will not be able to have any surplus, right? You will not be able to make available any surplus to the shareholders in terms of net profit, in terms of dividends. So this is again another important determinant of shareholder value. If your operating profit margin is high, to that extent you can expect to have more value available to the shareholders, more value which you can give to your shareholders. If your operating margin is under pressure because of the competition, because of the tight marketing conditions, because of falling sales, because of increasing operating and production and conversion manufacturing expenses, probably your operating margin will shrink, and this might not be sufficient to meet your selling and distribution and administrative expenses. So you will be left with very little or no profit, or you may even end up with loss. Then where are you going to create dividend? Then how can you say you have created value for your share? That is the relationship between operating profit margin and the shareholder value. Please note this. So this is again a determinant of value. Higher the operating profit margin, normally value creation will be higher. Additional value created will be very higher. Or addition to value will be very high. Then income tax rate. Normally you know this. From the in the profit and loss appropriation from the net profit, you pay tax on the net profit, and the remaining you are going to distribute. Assume you are following a 100% payout ratio. You are giving the balance to your shareholders as a dividend, and that is the value you are giving to shareholders. You are creating to shareholders the normal cost. Now, for example, your income, your net profit is 100 rupees, and if your tax rate is 30 rupees, you have to pay 30 rupees tax from that profit, and then you are left with 70 rupees. This 70 rupees you are going to give as dividend to your shareholders, and that is the value you have created this year. Assume that your income next year is 100 rupees, whereas the tax rate has been brought down from 30% to 20%, means you are paying only 20 rupees out of this net profit as income tax. You are left with 80 rupees, and this 80 rupees you are paying as dividend to your shareholders. Now, last year, when the income tax rate was 30%, the value created was 70 rupees. Whereas this year, income tax rate has been brought down to 20 rupees. You are creating a value of 80 rupees to your shareholders. This means higher the income tax rate, higher the corporate tax rate on corporate profits, lower will be the value that you can hope to create for your shareholders, and vice versa. So this is again a determinant. You might have earned huge profits. If government takes 50% of that profit as corporate tax, you will be left with only 50%. That is what you are going to create value for shareholders. But that is the value you are going to create for shareholders, assuming that you are having a 100% payout policy. On the other hand, if it is only 10% corporate tax, you will be left with 90 rupees or 90% of your net profit as are available for distribution as dividend to your shareholders. Then think of this, the amount of value, additional value, if you are going to create with the income tax rate being brought from 50% to 10%. So this is income tax rate is yet another determinant of the value you are going to create. Then investment in working capital. You know, we are mainly talking about manufacturing firms, which require huge working capital, right? And this working capital will be in terms of current assets. And now your current assets could be in terms of cash, in terms of receivables, in terms of inventory. Similarly, your current liabilities could be in terms of bills payable or country creditors and outstanding expenses and provisions. Now, what is the investment you are making in this working capital? If your current assets are 100 rupees, right, whereas requirement is 100 rupees, whereas your current liabilities available is say 80 rupees, you are going to invest only 10 rupees, sorry, 20 rupees as net investment in working capital, right? You have got 100 rupees, you have invested 100 rupees, or you possess 100 rupees of current assets made up of cash, bills receivable or book debts, and inventory. Whereas you have also been able to have a lot of current liabilities thanks to your suppliers, thanks to your service providers. They are giving you a line of credit. Assume that 80 rupees is your current liabilities, then the difference is 20 rupees which you have to make investment. Your 80% of your current assets are funded by your current liabilities, your suppliers, your service providers, through or with the help or in the form of the credit facility they provide to you. So your net liability for working capital, net investment for working capital is only 20. Now, what is this investment? Whether you are going to make huge investment in working capital or no investment. If your investment in working capital is very huge, probably you have studied this in advanced financial management, it is not going to generate any cash. Investment in cash idle, investment in book data is costly. It might even lead to bad debts or loss if you give too much of credit to your customers. Right? It is costly because funds are costly. Then if you invest too much in your inventory, again it is a loss unless it is a very optimum inventory. It is a loss. It is not going to generate any income. So what is your net investment in working capital? Working capital is the difference between the current assets and current. There is net working capital. I mean, it's the current assets minus current liabilities. You know this. Now, if your investment held up in working capital is very huge, then you are not going to be able to generate too much of value. On the other hand, if you are able to have very little investment, firm's investment in working capital, to that extent, you will be having the funds released for other investments, other income generating productions or investments, that you can hope to increase your profits, your revenue, and the value can create. Because any income, any revenue on working capital could be very low. On the other hand, if you invest in fixed assets, normally the return will be very high, maybe 10% or more. But if you invest in working capital, your revenue will be from say 0 to 3%. Zero on cash holding, or say 3% on an average revenue that you can expect to generate on book debts in higher prices, etc. But there will be a lot of bank charges on your working capital accommodation in the form of overdraft to cash flow. So all those issues are there. So what we need to know is the investment in working capital determines the the direction in which your value creation process is going. Your investment is too high, that is 1 second, that is not going to help you in creating value for your shareholders. Next, fixed capital investment. This is a very crucial thing because fixed capital is revenue generating assets or fixed assets. Now, if you are a manufacturing company, if you are a typical manufacturing company, if it is a capital intensive company, unless you invest more on your fixed assets, unless you invest on the acquisition of new and original assets or renovation, modernization of your production infrastructure, production facilities, you cannot hope to earn more revenue. If you are saddled with old machines, old technology, old processes, then you cannot hope to be able to produce as per the current market requirements, current market preferences, right? All those patterns, etc. You will continue to produce those old, redundant, old-fashioned goods, and there will be no market, and hence your sales will fall. So unless you continuously upgrade your fixed assets, continuously invest in expanding your production facilities, you will not be able to hope for higher sales, higher revenue, and higher profits. So fixed capital investment, there should be some range at which you are regularly going on renovating, replacing, modernizing, right? Your fixed assets, your income generating assets. Because please note, fixed assets are the income generating assets, not your current assets. Current assets facilitate, right? But basically, there should be a strong fixed assets foundation in terms of plant and machinery, in terms of higher capacity, higher production capacity, in terms of your factory buildings, warehouses, right? R&D labs, quality control facilities, transportation vehicles, your material handling equipments, all these are fixed assets. Unless you have them sufficiently, you cannot hope to expand your production, expand your sales, expand your revenue, and consequently profits and dividend or value for the shareholders. Then the cost of capital, you are aware as finance students. Higher the cost means higher burden, higher financial burden on the principal, higher charge on profit and loss account. I want to tell it very directly. Higher cost of capital means, especially if it is cost of debt, there will be higher charge on your profits, bringing down your profits, thereby leaving very little for distributable profits to the shareholder. So to that extent, it affects your value creation and value growth duration. Sometimes, sometimes you need to have a time horizon. You might not be able to double your sales, double your revenue, say in 2 years, in 3 years, because of the various internal and external environmental factors. So, what is the duration you have got? If you have a very short-term time horizon and if the market is very tight, probably you will not be able to create and add value as you want. You may have to be little patient. You may have to wait for 5 years. You may have to wait for 10 years for your operations to stabilize, for your market position to stabilize, for you to have a higher market share. Then you can hope to have higher sales, higher revenue, higher profits. So, in a very short span of time, probably organizations might not be able to have a very noticeable, you can say, very noticeable or remarkable value addition or value creation for their shareholders. They have to be very consistent. They will have to have a lot of patience, etc. Only then they can hope to improve their value creation mechanism or process. They can hope to add more and more value to their shareholders. So collectively, these seven are considered as very important determinants of shareholder value under this approach. And this approach suggests that the organizations are required to look into these determinants or factors and work accordingly so that they will be able to uh, hope for higher value creation for their shareholders. Now, while the first six value drivers are self-explanatory, so I explained to you all these things. You know this rate of sales growth, operating profit margin, income tax rate, investment, fixed capital, cost of capital, value growth. The last one, value growth duration, represents the period over which investments are expected to earn rates of return in excess of capital. You have got a concept, you are aware of the concept of IRR. You know this, what is this? Internal rate of return. Internal rate of return is that rate of return which is equals your revenue or the present value of future cash flows to this one, right? Without any profits. And when your internal rate of return is higher than your cost of capital, probably you will start earning additional income, additional value. So this is the value growth duration normally. How soon or in how many years you will be able to break even, that is your IRR and cost of capital or WACC, and After that, your IRR will be higher than your cost of capital, and naturally you will be having this surplus which you can transfer to your shareholders as additional value created. So what is this period? That is what we thought of, whether it is short or 1 to 3 years or 3 to 5 years or beyond 5 years. How soon your input rate of return is likely to cross your weighted average cost of capital. So it is an estimate reflecting the belief of the management that competitive advantage will exist for a finite period. Finite period means a specified period, in not infinite, not for next 100 years. Your competitive advantage, the company's competitive advantage will be there for say 3 years or 4 years. By then, another competitor will come, and your advantage will come down. Say you have introduced a new model of smartphone, and you are a iPhone. Everybody will come to buy your competitive advantage high because there are no other competitors. But having seen your product performing very well, gradually, if not today, but gradually over the years, you will be more competitive. Then naturally, you will not be the only person manufacturing that product. There will be 10 other manufacturers. So the market will get distributed among these 10, and your competitive advantage will come down. So organizations know that their competitive advantage has a fixed life, a finite life. It might be for 3 years. You cannot hope to be a monopolist in the market for ever. No. Sooner than later, competitors will enter. You have studied this in strategic management, I believe. So managements believe that they have to they have got a value creation, value growth duration during which the value can be expected to grow, right? When your IRR will be more than this one, and they have to work a lot to achieve this value creation, value addition potential during this period. But if they don't, they will miss the bus. They will not be able to create additional value beyond this finite period, beyond this specific period. So that's why as soon as somebody enters the market, they will go all out so that they will be able to get the market share, right? Make the most of their competitive, pioneering, monopolistic position, right? They know that their monopolistic position will not continue forever. As a expiry date before which they have to earn more so that they'll be able to create more value for their shareholders. So that is the implication of the value growth drivers. Thereafter, competitive advantage will be lost, causing the rate of return to regress to cost of capital. So no profit, no loss. So when constraints make hate easy. So when your IRR appears to be high, make the most of your competitive position, earn more, grow more, right, create more value for the shareholders. So this appears to be a very important, one of the important determinants of value, shareholder value according to alpha approach, value growth duration. How soon or how late? So that's where I'm going to stop this session. I find 20 point 21 students to this class, right? So let me end this session here. Anybody has joined now? Neha Kausar, I find. Then who else? Yes. Because I have named all, I have taken all of them. So, Sushmita, yeah, these two are the new additions. Yes. Okay then. Hope you are all there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
stopping.
sir.
I'm going to stop the
Yes,
session
sir.
here. Right. I'm ending the session. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.